we have adopted as an enabling framework to enable both the private sector and the public sector to come and invest. As far as this production sharing contract is concerned, I am not saying for a moment that it is not the right thing to do. When we opened up the economy in 1992-93, and when we moved away from the nomination era, when all the exploration was done on nomination basis by the national oil companies, onto a liberalized regime, when we invited private sector participation, both Indian and foreign, production sharing contract was the right template. What it essentially meant was that there will be a level playing field, that foreign and domestic investment in technologies are welcome, and that adequate returns will be assured to them. However, the devil lies in the details. And there are two things which I think we did wrong in the production sharing contract. One is that we have drafted this contract far too tightly. The contract, for example, lays down something like 25 timelines, and each of those timelines are inviolable. Now, this is not how an exploration and production contract should be drafted. No exploration proceeds along textbook lines. It does not. But the production sharing contract does not capture that spirit. Secondly, the production sharing contract expects that the costs will be recovered and the profits will be shared. A very fine thought, a very fine template. But then that issue of cost recovery, we find, leads us into a bit of a mess, where there is often a dispute with regard to what costs to be recovered between the E&P player and the government. And as a result, what we find is that instead of channelizing our energies into more investments and more production, we start looking at issues such as, is government getting its rightful revenue by way of, let us say, profit petroleum? Now, this inversion of priorities, this moving away of the priority from energy security to government revenues, I think it is a wrong move. We should have stuck to our position that energy security is paramount, and that in a sector such as ours, where we import hydrocarbons worth about $150 billion every year, government take of a couple of $1 billion is chicken feed. And that should not have been allowed to bog down the process of administration of production sharing contract. So learning from this experience of the last about 18 years or so of administering production sharing contract, the government has moved forward. We have appointed Rangarajan committee earlier, which has given a recommendation about the future template to be followed, and government is considering that. While it is so, the government has also appointed Kelkar committee to further give recommendations on this issue. So this is one part as far as the future movement is concerned. Now, what do we do with 250 legacy contracts, production sharing contracts, which are there with us? Those contracts are done deals. They are signed with open eyes, both by the government as well as by the E&P operators. So they are very tightly defined. And as all of us realize within this room, that once you sign a contract, then a deviation from that contract becomes very difficult to negotiate. So what we have done is, we have identified, as an example, about 18 key areas in the implementation of the existing 250 legacy contracts. And we have moved forward a proposal where 9 of these 18 would require approval of the cabinet, and the remaining 9 can be done by way of an administrative executive order. So this is the way we are proceeding forward. We are trying to simplify the working of the existing contracts, and we are moving on to future contracts in a manner where there would be far less sort of dependence on the government, and the freedom which the E&P operators would get would be totally remarkable. So that is the future, and I'm sure that we will be in a position to achieve that goal around the same time that we launch our NEL 10. That's the objective. The second area where I feel we need to move forward very, very quickly is with regard to the data. Now, as we know, out of about 3 million square kilometers of basinal areas, sedimentary areas that we have in 26 basins, roughly about only half of it has good quality data, and 48% to be precise actually lacks good quality data. Now, unless we have the basic data, how do I go out into the market and ask players to come and invest? So, what we have proposed is that we would be following two routes for this. Number one, we are going to bring about speculative survey policy, where the private investors, speculative service companies come and invest their money in a certain manner, which sort of gives them freedom to sell the data and to realize their costs. That's one. Secondly, we have made an assessment, and we will be coming up to the government for acquisition of data, particularly on land, because our assessment is that speculative survey companies are not interested in going and acquiring data for on-land plots. For on-land areas, it's going to cost a little less than $1 billion, roughly, which is, again, not a big amount. $1 billion over 5 years would give us sufficient data for on-land projects. So these are two challenges which we have taken completely head on. As I mentioned, one is to improve the administration of the existing production sharing contracts and bring about huge improvement for future. And secondly, moving in the area of data acquisition.